Fuck, I never know how to start these videos. Look, I haven't made any videos at all this year because I had to concentrate on work and some IRL goals that I'd set myself for 2017, and I reached them, which means in 2018 I can finally relax a little, so my concentration and money can be spent on things that I actually enjoy doing, like going to the cinema more regularly, going out with friends for a drink occasionally, and of course making my crappy YouTube videos a bit more often. Well, anyway, I don't want to bore you with any more than that. And also I want to point out that 2016 me was a fucking liar, because he said he'd do reviews in 2017 and he didn't make any reviews, so fuck past me. If I only make one video this year, then let it be this one. Here are the films I saw this year, along with my best and worst of 2017. Assassin's Creed. Yeah, even though it was the first film I saw this year, I'm not going to be kind to it. About 99% of video game film adaptions aren't that fucking great, are they? It feels like a standard sci-fi action movie, both with equal parts set in the past and present day. Although I will give them props for not copying the game's storyline outright and using a different period in time and a different cast of historical characters. The stunts are brilliant, as is some of the camera work, although to be fair, camera work from BBC nature documentaries like Planet Earth is fucking amazing as well. But getting back to Assassin's Creed, it's not stellar in its execution, but it's a good jumping off point. But given that the main star is Michael Fassbender, a guy who's been in hot demand since 2011, and I suspect that even though he and the film's director already had a trilogy planned out in their heads of what they wanted to do, I think this will be a project that Fassbender has on like the back burner for when he's not doing anything major. I'm not going to shit on the film entirely, but I would like to know where they take this version of Assassin's Creed in potential sequels in the future. Logan. Holy shit, this is amazing. Like a proper grounded superhero film. It's not flashy or glamorous. It's dirty and miserable, and people are trying to survive. Just my kind of joint. Logan is slowly losing his powers and dying, and it's worth watching the ending twice, which I did by accident, because like a spastic, I walked in at the end of the last showing. So the three of us who actually went to see the film were just sat there laughing our fucking heads off in the dark, waiting for the film to roll again. It's sad to see Wolverine and Professor X go, but at the same time, it's worth remembering that they've played these characters for nearly 20 years, and it's good to see a certain chapter of a franchise go out on a really solid high. If you haven't seen it yet, then what are you doing? Go and fucking watch it, you goddamn idiot. Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Look, I'll come out and say it. I didn't like this as much as the first Guardians of the Galaxy film, and as much as I love Kurt Russell, I didn't find his bad guy character threatening. I guess they were hoping that the CGI and visual shots would make up for the rest of the film, and it does look good, but I guess maybe there were too many characters, or the story was trying to focus on one too many things. The laughs are still there though.
What?
You look like Mary Poppins.
Is he cool?
Hell yeah, he's cool.
I'm Mary Poppins, y'all!
War for the Planet of the Apes. I still love this film, but it suffered from having to fit with continuity, so it had to end a certain way. An ending which we all knew was coming, by the way, which kind of made it feel a bit anticlimactic. If you've seen either of the two previous films, then you won't be lost at all, and it's more of the same, except the stakes are a little bit higher. Oh, and there's a comic relief character chimp. But other than that, like I said, it's more of the same. It's not the best one of the three, but it's still a good way to round off the trilogy. Also, why the fuck hasn't Andy Serkis got a goddamn Oscar yet? Stephen King's It. Okay, if your movie is billed as a horror and I'm laughing my head off within the first 5 minutes, you done fucked it up. To me, it just wasn't as scary as the 1990 version. A lot of people say it's more true to the source material, and if that's true, then fine, whatever. I mean, at the time, after I'd seen it, my reaction was, it sucked. And it took me a while to figure out what it was that just wasn't clicking for me. And I came to the realization that what was wrong for me was that they were playing the film, just a bit too much of the film, for laughs, and the tone of the film just wasn't consistently atmospheric enough. Don't get me wrong, I love the banter between the group of friends because it's how normal people are. Oftentimes in film and TV, the dialogue between friends just seems so stiff and awkward, but this felt way more natural. Another thing the film did better was Pennywise's underground lair, which is far superior with the centuries of junk and floating corpses, which makes more sense with the line, "We all float down here," which you didn't see in the 1990 version. But in this version it makes a lot more sense. But I'm willing to take back my initial reaction, but the film is going to lose a few points for any "boo, I'm a scary clown" jump scare moments. Kingsman: The Golden Circle. I loved the action scenes in this, and well, they had to get bigger and more ridiculous because America, and also because the Kingsman base and all the agents got destroyed and killed at the start of the film, which sucked. The villain was unique and different with her jungle-based drug empire and her 50s aesthetic, compared to the baddie of the previous film, who was a tech-savvy billionaire bent on wiping out humanity. But again, like Guardians of the Galaxy 2 and War for the Planet of the Apes, it's more of the same stuff. It's still good stuff. In fact, Elton John's cameo was fucking hilarious. And plus, little known fact, Elton John actually has mad ninja kung fu skills.
Elton, just calm down. Fuck you.
Stay there, Elton. Fuck off, or I'll fuck you up.
Maybe I'm just not a fan of sequels nowadays because it's just too safe. But Hollywood does it because it's easier to make money by being safe and making franchises instead of taking risks. But I like that they tried something new and they added the Statesman Agency, which adds another dimension to the whole world that this all takes place in. Don't Knock Twice. I didn't even realise this came out this year when I watched it on Netflix a few months back. But yeah, it's pretty decent, I suppose. From what I remember anyway. It's not a bad low-budget horror film, and not a bad twist at the end. Maybe I'm thick, or I was possibly drunk at the time and didn't see the twist coming. Some acting is a bit iffy at times, but yeah, if you've got a spare 90 minutes, then give it a shot. Underworld: Blood Wars. Well, it's less than 90 minutes, I'll give it that. It's a stock action movie with no bullshit filler, which again I was thankful for, because when it comes to films like this, it's best to just get to the bloody point. And, as a positive note, I didn't hate this film like I did the last one. Maybe that was their plan. It's been 5 years since the last one, and I've even heard rumours online that there will be a sixth, and hopefully final fucking film in the Underworld franchise. I mean, goddamn, let this franchise die already. And as fine as hell as Kate Beckinsale still looks, when she filmed the original Underworld for like back in 2003, she was what, 28, 29? She's like 45 now. So if you want to make another Underworld film, you better get on that shit quick. Vampires are immortal, but us humans, we're not. I don't want to wake up one day, switch on the internet to find out she's broken a hip on set or something, because that will forever puncture the image of her being immortal and cool as fuck. So end these films now. I said this fucking years ago after Rise of the Lycans. Stop this shit. End it now. Man, if I was her, I would probably be bored of making these goddamn films by now. Resident Evil, the final chapter. It's Resident Evil. What do I even have to say at this point, apart from we're all glad that they finally wrapped this shit up? This has been a long, boring, drawn-out joke with no punchline in sight for 15 fucking years. I stopped giving a shit after the second film in 2004. To explain to you just how long this franchise has taken to end, let me explain it to you like this. I was 11, a few months away from turning 12 years old when the first film came out. I am now 27 and silently begging for the release of Death every time they announce a goddamn new fucking Resident Evil film. It's bollocks, yeah? 2 out of 10. The Mummy. Honestly, I don't know how Universal Pictures keeps fucking it up with their attempts to start a dark classic monsters universe, or whatever the fuck it's called. Surely this is the easiest shit to pull off. And how do they keep failing? How? I don't... I mean, I suppose that The Wolfman back in 2010 was their equivalent of a test run to get a response from audiences, and, well, the feedback to The Wolfman was lukewarm at best. Like, no joke, I remember going to see that shit at the cinema. I think I've even still got the ticket somewhere. But the film itself wasn't spectacular. Oh, it's entertaining and got some good actors, especially a go-for-broke performance by Benicio del Toro, but it wasn't received well, and it pretty much has a general rating of meh out of 10. It's not awful, but it's not good either. Next in line was Dracula Untold in 2014, with little to no story and just a mega CGI fest. And I can't believe I was so charitable to the damn film back then. I even said I knew it wasn't that good. And yeah, getting back to Dracula Untold, it's even more subpar than The Wolfman. Like, seriously, if The Wolfman was like a 5 or a 6 out of 10, then Dracula was like a 3.5. Which brings us to The Mummy reboot of 2017, starring Tom Cruise, which is somehow as bad as Dracula Untold, or even worse. No kidding, these films just seem to keep getting progressively worse. Public service announcement for Universal Pictures. Stop it. Give up. Or at the very least, go back to the fucking drawing board. Because this obviously isn't working and you're doing something wrong. Let me give you a hint. Focus on writing characters and stories first, then slap in CGI. Just take a serious look at some of the ratings people are giving this online. 6 out of 10 from the most kind-hearted of souls on the internet. But mostly, it's less. If someone's given it a fraction higher than 4 or 5, if they're super nostalgic of old Universal monsters, maybe, then they are babbling morons and should be strapped to a chair and forced to watch the film over and over until they assign it the rating it deserves. It's not an average film or even a middle-of-the-road film. It's a piece of shit. Stop making these types of lazy CGI-infested action cash-ins on old shit that we like. Kong, Skull Island. Well, Kong has one advantage over Godzilla. The fact that he appears almost as soon as the film starts, like before the opening credits. Unlike Godzilla, who took 55 goddamn minutes to appear on screen. I wasn't expecting much out of it. I was expecting a bunch of huge monster fights and soldiers shooting at shit, and that's what I got out of it. Although I am disappointed that Samuel L. Jackson didn't get a motherfucker off on screen before he died, but, well, whatever. And Cole's sacrifice towards the end is incidentally both sad and fucking hilarious. And there's a potential setup for a future Kong versus Godzilla film or something else like that at the end of the film. So yeah, we'll see what happens there. Power Rangers. This is exactly what I was expecting it to be. And what is it? Well, it's actually not that bad. And I gotta give them props for actually focusing on the characters instead of endless and pointless fights like the TV show does. So bravo for that one. And you actually give a shit about the characters a bit. So when they finally do morph and fight for the first time, an hour and 30 minutes into the 2 hours I might add, you actually give a damn, because you've seen them struggle up until this point and you've seen them build up to the final battle. But let me also just say that it is by no means Oscar worthy or anything like that, because it's still Power Rangers we're talking about here. But overall, it's pretty solid, so a high 6.5 out of 10. Rings. I'm just filling my quota horror here for the year. It's pretty bog standard horror, nothing particularly scary about it, and it's pretty predictable if I'm to be honest with you. About the best thing about it is my mates went to go see this film without me after they'd been to the pub, and they were so shit-faced they fell asleep during the film, which I find quite amusing, because it was obviously so entertaining that they had to go in preloaded and have a nap during the film. If you're skittish or if you're scared by mainstream scary shit, then maybe this will work for you. But people who've been desensitized to most scary shit like myself, you'll find this uninteresting or just boring. Wonder Woman. I don't have many words to say, but this was fucking brilliant. Everything felt necessary, there was no bullshit filler even though it was over 2 hours long. Hats off to the main characters and their work, especially Gal Gadot, because most of the film is on her shoulders. And just wow, man, this was fucking great. And also wow, because who knew that Professor Lupin was also the god of war? And there was me thinking all DC superhero films were going to be shit forever. Has Wonder Woman finally dragged the DC films from the fire? Perhaps. Time will tell. Always does. Spider-Man Homecoming. It's more stuff from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I like this new Peter Parker more than the Andrew Garfield incarnation, mainly because Tom Holland's Spider-Man was more consistent and his personality didn't schizophrenically change from scene to scene. And I also didn't feel like punching him in the fucking face like I did Andrew Garfield. And can we have a round of applause for the main man himself, Michael Keaton, for being the first bad guy in a Spider-Man film that's actually an effective villain. Bravo, y'all, for making a bad guy who doesn't care about taking over the world and is just doing what he does to provide for his family and nothing more. He's a bit of a dick and a criminal, so, you know, he has to lose, because that's the way things always work. Thor Ragnarok. Bruh, this has got to be one of my favourite Marvel films of all time. I'm glad that I didn't waste my chance to go and see it at the cinema. The previous Thor films were great, don't get me wrong, but they lacked the humour and the levity that other Marvel films do, and even Chris Hemsworth himself was bored and considered giving up the role until he started working on this. That's why it was great to see this film, and looking at the actors' faces in the film, they were clearly loving every minute, just messing around and having a blast while filming it. I haven't had this much fun with a Marvel film since the first Guardians of the Galaxy film back in 2014. I won't give anything away, just go fucking watch it. Addendum for Star Wars The Last Jedi. Star Wars VIII. I can't be bothered, I haven't seen it yet, so just with like Rogue One last year, I'm foregoing this to get this damn video out before the end of the year. Oh yeah, and tough shit, because I probably wouldn't name it Film of the Year anyway. And so, drum roll please, my film of 2017 is Well, it was going to be a toss-up between Logan and Wonder Woman, as they're both very good films, but I'm giving it to Logan. I suppose I'd prefer Marvel over DC, and also I've got more investment in the characters in Logan, especially Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart, as I've watched their character progression through the X-Men films since I was 10. It's sad to see them go, but I feel the way their story ended was fitting. There's no fanfare, there's no huge battle to save the Earth. It was just a couple of baddies and a one-on-one fight at the end. And that's my choice. And finally, we move on to everyone's favourite, well, my favourite, so fuck you, the Attention Deficit Award for 2017. The Attention Deficit Award this year goes to the Justice League movie. And not because I won't watch it because I think it's bad. No. I'm going to hold off on watching this film until early next year, because I have a funny feeling that they're going to Dawn of Justice this bitch. Remember the Batman vs Superman movie? The theatrical release came out and was like 2.5 hours long, and then 4 months later they released the real version that was 3 hours long. Yeah, you see where I'm going with this. And as soon as Justice League was released, people were saying that something felt missing, or the film felt too short, like there were certain scenes that were cut out. And looking at the runtime, which is only 2 hours, considering the last film was way longer, it does make me quite fucking suspicious that Warner Brothers is doing the exact same goddamn thing again. I am not a dumbass. I dodged paying twice for Batman vs Superman, and I'm going to avoid it this time as well. How stupid do these studios think we are? Do they seriously think all of us have some kind of goddamn hive mind goldfish memory? Also, the runner-up for the Attention Deficit Award is Jigsaw. I'm not watching it now. I stopped watching after Saw 3. It's really annoying when a franchise ends and it has a stupid subtitle like The Final Chapter, and then a few years later it comes back again. Just so dumb, man. But hey, Hollywood never let a good money spinner die, do they? What, was the cocaine bucket running dry? There was a Saw film every year between 2004 and 2010, and people just started getting tired of them. I know, it's been 7 years since the last one, and there's a whole new decade of teenage edgelords that grew up without Saw films. But with these films, you know what you're getting when you walk into the cinema. You're either going to love it or you don't. And even saying that, this is still the worst performing Saw film at the box office. And apparently it's not even that good. Like, in fact, just going by looking on the internet and seeing some of the user reviews online, if you aren't in a minority that outright love it, the general consensus has been eh. And that's even by people who've been long-time fans of the Saw franchise. And I know why they make films like this. For a quick buck. It's because by Hollywood standards, the Saw films are extremely cheap to make. The average budget for a Saw film is like, what, $10 million? As opposed to the average Hollywood film these days, where a budget is usually between 100 to 200 million. But anyway, back to the point. I'm not watching it. Maybe at some point in the future, in the next 2 or 3 years, say, I'll sit down and I will just marathon through the entire Saw franchise. But right now, I just don't give a shit. Ding, 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 ding. And that's it for this year. The end. See you all in 2018, my bitches.